Legal notice, Town of Thompson, Town Board notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Thompson at the Town Hall, 4052 State Route 42, Monticello, New York, on November 15th, 2022 at 6 p.m. on planned upgrades to the Kiamesha Lake wastewater treatment plant located at 128 Rockridge Drive in Monticello. Information on the planned upgrades can be found on the Town of Thompson website, which is located at www.townofthompsonsewerupgrades.com. And this notice will be held in person and also via video conference on Zoom, located under meeting ID 880-1386-1951. The public can also submit email written comments or questions by 4:30 p.m. on the day of the meeting to info@townofThompson.com. Please also take further notice that unless there is a special notice, otherwise the official meeting of the Town of Thompson Town Board is an in-person meeting conducted here at the Town Hall, 4053 State Route 42, Monticello, New York. And the Zoom invite is merely a courtesy and convenience to the residents and applicants. The meeting date, the notice dated October 18, 2022, and I have an affidavit.
Okay, I hereby call this public meeting to order. I guess we'll start out with a presentation by Helen Budrock from Delaware Engineering, explaining what we're doing in Kiamesha.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, everyone. Really on such a crappy day.
It was a nice day when we did it.
I know. So as Bill said, I'm Helen Budrock. I'm a planner with Delaware Engineering. We're the engineering firm that's been working with the town on the Kiamesha Lake sewer plant upgrade. As you all probably know, the Kiamesha Lake sewer plant serves about 1,100 residents and several businesses on the Route 42 commercial corridor, as well as the resorts, Little Catskills Casino. The reason why we're here tonight is because the town of Thompson contains potential environmental justice areas, which is something that's defined by the Department of Environmental Conservation, the regulatory agency that governs the wastewater treatment plant, and they require enhanced public participation during the planning and permitting process. We did have some public outreach about 2 years ago when the town adopted the bond resolution. So this is a very similar presentation to the one that we gave 2 years ago. So the sewer district is the yellow shaded area. The potential environmental justice area is the red crosshatch area. This is where the sewer plant is located. Just for reference, this is Thompson Square Mall, Walmart, Kiamesha Lake, and this is Anawana Lake Road that kind of snakes up here, and this is Fraser Road. So the plant was built in 1956. It was last upgraded in 2016. One of the reasons why we're here today is that the D.P.C. put into effect new effluent standards for residual chlorine that went into effect earlier this year in May. The town's known about it for the past couple of years and has been working towards meeting that goal. But that pretty much means that the plant needs to have new UV disinfection to meet that new effluent standard for residual chlorine. The plant operator is here. We also have our engineers on the call if anybody has any technical questions about what that actually means. So that is what prompted the town 3 years ago to start looking at the plant and possible upgrades. Even though there was an upgrade in 2016, many of the plant components are still nearing the end of their useful life and need to be replaced. Some examples include the maintenance shop buildings used by both sewer department staff and the town DPW are in very poor condition. And one of the unique issues with the Kiamesha plant is that the sludge from all of the other town wastewater treatment plants is for processing and disposal. So during the busy summer months, the plant sometimes has trouble with the high volume of sludge loading it receives. So part of the upgrade is going to help improve sludge handling. Right now, the plant operates at about 50% of its available capacity at peak flows. It's permitted at 2 million gallons a day. So we're not asking the DEC for any increase in capacity around for now and for the future.
Can you just explain a little bit the
Yes.
operating at 50% of capacity, but still not being able to keep up during the summer? Just to
Um,
clarify that.
Mike could probably clarify, or John can clarify the details, but the operating capacity has to do with the flow. The sludge processing has to do with the waste products and being able to dry that sufficiently so that it can be transported off-site and disposed of. Did I get that?
Yes, yeah, so like the press that's there, it was undersized from the get-go. And it can't handle, all the new sludge production and everything now. That and one of the blowers is operating, not as designed, so you're trying to processing it just with the equipment.
Yeah, I just wanted to explain that in case somebody watching didn't
Yeah,
understand that.
absolutely. I know there's a lot of intricacies and I tried to make it as kind of simple as possible, but thank you, Scott, for that. I appreciate it. So let me just make sure I think I covered everything on that slide. So the next slide is just a summary of the upgrades. Again, if anybody has any technical questions, we have some folks that can answer that here today, but the proposed upgrade includes oxidation ditch improvements, including new blowers, diffusers and mixers to improve energy efficiency, sand filter improvements, new pumps and control system improvements, post aeration blowers to improve air supply, the new UV building and disinfection equipment that I mentioned previously. And one of the unique aspects of this particular upgrade is the sludge handling improvements would include installation of a new thermophilic aerobic digestion system, otherwise known as ATAD, that could conceivably reduce the volume of waste by up to 75%. The other thing that's unique about it is that it uses not only biological processes, but also heat to reduce the sludge down to sort of a pelletized granular form that ends up being a Class A biosolid, which means it's approved for land application as a fertilizer. So right now, the town takes all of its waste sludge after it's been dried, hauls it off to a landfill. You have to pay to get rid of it. This will reduce the amount of waste product that you would have to dispose of by up to 75%. And what's left over, you may not even have to send to the landfill if you've got agricultural users that are interested in taking it off your hands and applying it to their crops and farm fields. So last but not least, the new shop and maintenance building that I referred to before, and then miscellaneous buildings and the site as a whole.
I have a question about ATAD. Isn't that also a substitute for topsoil? Or is it just fertilizer?
I don't know if I can answer that question. They might use
That, yeah, this is John. The ATAD byproduct can be used for fertilizer on lawns. It can be used any place that the town wants to use it. They can put it out in a pile free to the public. There's a bunch of entities that now are starting to purchase the material, so it might be a revenue source for you in the future.
I think it could probably be used to amend topsoil, to add nutrients, but not probably by itself, because it almost looks like coffee grinds, from what I remember, so.
As long as it's easy to rake, I'm good with.
So just general, the site plan, the blue are the new buildings, which is pretty much the ATAD, the UV disinfection building, and then the new shop, sort of DPW garage. Everything else in pink are existing buildings and processes that will be upgraded, but the footprint is not going to change. So a quick cost summary. Right now, the DEC is in the process of reviewing the permit application. It's called a Speedies permit. We won't know the total cost of the upgrade until DEC completes their review and lets the town know what the final effluent limits are going to be. Based on what we know, we are estimating that the project will cost about 27 million. 2 years ago, the town passed a bond resolution authorizing the borrowing of up to 27 million. And to date, the town has secured $7.4 million in grants. Those are ones that have been approved. We just found out recently that the bipartisan infrastructure legislation that was passed by Congress last year, also known as bill funding, is also going through EFC, the Environmental Facilities Corporation, which is where the town is going to get its financing. And we found out that Thompson is eligible for up to $10.3 million in additional bill funding. We won't know what that final number is until DEC finishes its permit review. Then the financing agency can put together a final financing package that includes the grants that we know we already have, plus the bill funding, and then what's left over, the town also is eligible to finance that balance at 0%. So hopefully it won't be a huge financial burden. A little bit of basics about how these projects are paid for. They are not paid for with general taxes. They are actually user fees. So only properties that are in the Kiamesha Lake Sewer District will pay a share of the cost through sewer rents. So if you're a town resident that lives in Paris or Rock Hill or is not hooked up to the sewer system, your taxes are not going to go up because of this project. So sewer rents are also not taxes. Anyone who benefits from the sewer district pays them, even tax exempt users. And then last but not least, the town back in 2020 consolidated, I believe it was 9 sewer districts into 5, and restructured its rate system, which resulted in sewer rents actually going down starting in 2021. So even with the cost share with this project in the future, that increase will most likely bring users back to the level that they were, prior to the consolidation. What has been done so far? In 2019, Delaware Engineering was hired to prepare an infrastructure master plan to look at all of the water and sewer facilities and come up with a prioritization. Kiamesha and Emerald Green were both high on that priority list. So in 2020, we completed an engineering report. The town board did a secret process. That's the environmental review process required by state law. Passed the bond resolution, enabling them to borrow money for the project, consolidated the districts, and restructured sewer rates townwide. Last year, we sent the speedies permit application to the regulatory agency, applied for financing, and secured those grants that talked about on the last slide. And then earlier this year, we sent detailed plans and specifications just for the UV component to the regulatory agency and the financing agency, because we weren't sure if they were going to require that the town phase the projects and do the UV sooner than the other upgrades, because there's sort of a regulatory compliance issue involved with that. So what's next? We're hoping that DEC will complete its review of the speedies permit application in the next couple of months. They've had it for a while. This is sort of the last step for public participation. We're hoping that EFC, the financing agency, will have a project financing agreement, also known as PFA, ready early in 2023 with the final grant loan funding package. And we will be able to move ahead with final design and bidding in 2023, and then the construction period would be 2 years from 2024 to 2025. So that's an overview of the upgrade. Our Oneonta office is leading the design team. Their contact information is there. John Peterson is on the line. He's the lead designer. And if anybody has any questions or wants to download any additional information, including copies of the engineering reports or the speedies permit application or any of the board details, there's a dedicated website called ThompsonSewerUpgrades.com that has all that information available.